Okay, thank you. Hello, people. I am Sunny Chayes, and I am so excited to be here today because I am going to be chatting with someone who is going to bring us some magical, magical inspiration. You see Ireland behind me. We are going to be chatting about Ireland, and we're going to be bringing to you today someone I want to give you a little introduction. His name is Finbarr Ross. He is a mystic, a spiritual guide, a self realization facilitator, a writer, and he leads these really incredible anchoring meditations with a threefold golden flame. And he also takes people on sacred mystical journeys. And I've been on one, so I can tell you they're really off the beaten path. They're very, very powerful. He takes people to sites all over the world that have great, great spiritual energy and vortexes and beautiful mystic experiences that people can have. And it's very often that people have opening pathways of self-discovery and so many beautiful things. And then another aspect of Finbarr, which I find so shocking, actually, especially when you meet him, is that adds to his story and his life, is that he was a political pawn, I guess we would say. He was part of the Northern Ireland peace agreement during the Bill Clinton administration that was and during that time, there was that conflict with Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and the United States was involved. And so Finbarr was incarcerated for 26 months in Northern Ireland as well as the States. And I will like to say that all charges were dismissed, and there was never any wrongdoing on his part. So we have a big, big conversation today. We're going to be talking about how we can absolutely triumph no matter where we are in our world. So I'm just going to bring on Finbarr Ross. Let's do it, Kurt. So happy to have you, Finbarr.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunny.
You're so welcome. How are you doing in your land where you are?
I am doing great, thank you. I am a happy camper.
I'm so glad, and I'm excited that we're actually going to be chatting about the book that you have written and that you have spent many years, well, many, many years of your life living and then deciding to write a book and then going through that whole process, which is like having a baby. Only it took many more months than 9. And so congratulations on the release of your book in the United States as well as in Europe. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You know, Finbarr, because there's so much we're going to be talking about today, I would like to, if it's okay with you, I would like to read. You wrote in your book, My Wish for You. You wrote this sort of prayer wish for the people reading this book. And I was just thinking I would read it for the people. So is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay,
that's great.
Good. I'm glad you're happy about that. So this is from Finbarr, guys. We all have a story, and this is mine. My desire for sharing it with you is to encourage you to trust that there is benevolent power that is always watching over you, even when you feel lost, alone, abandoned, full of despair and hopeless. Know that you are not alone. On my walk from incarceration to illumination, spiritual awakening, my soul took me on a vision quest to meet myself. It was not easy, as you will read in these pages that follow, but each step of the way has led me to the life that my spirit was calling me to. Each experience tested me and grew me into the person I am proud to be today. My hope is that you traverse through these pages of this book, that you will be so encouraged to trust more deeply that everything is in divine right order and that you are loved even when you feel like your life is falling apart. If you can, have even a seedling of faith that perhaps something is unfolding on your behalf for your highest good, something that has not been revealed to you yet. I promise life can take unexpected changes you could never even dream of, for the better. As you will see in the chapters that follow, my life is living proof of it, And I wish that for you as well. Ooh, that makes me cry. So thank you, Finbarr. Thank you. So welcome to our show here today.
Thank you.
So jump in. I'm just going to let you sort of maybe chat a little bit about just what you're feeling right now.
Well, right now I'm very excited because the book is now being launched in the United States on Friday, and it's already out in Europe. And so this has been possibly 5 years in the making from whence I started it, and then moved it along, and it evolved as it went along, and I carry within it all the various experiences that I've had in my life from once I was born in West Cork in Ireland, all the way through school, and then my business life, and then how my life changed in 1990 when I had a big experience with Mother Mary. And then
Mm.
my life took a whole different turn after that. And
Oh,
so then I went on a spiritual quest from there on.
interesting. Well, I, as I mentioned earlier, went with you and Dr. Sue and a small group of people to Ireland, and I was so fascinated by the, again, being off the beaten path of taking a, sort of vacation, let's say, but this was far, far deeper than that. And we learned so much about ourselves, each and every one of us. And I know that I did, and it changed me forever to feel the wisdom of Ireland and to feel and maybe you can speak to this because I don't really understand it. I felt with the Irish people, I know some of the history. I'm Irish. My mom was Irish. And what I noticed with the people was this great joy and this great honoring of each other. I would notice the way people speak to each other when nobody was watching. People working with each other, they seem to be joyfully and excited to see each other each day. There was just an honoring, and there was this just kind of, shall I say, leprechaun energy. And at the same time, a deep, deep sadness because of what's gone on in Ireland for, many years, and then back to the potato famine and before that. And so the mix of this I just couldn't really understand how people can have such a true joy and also hold within oneself this pain. I mean, nothing was dismissed, nothing was, buried necessarily. It felt like it was all part of the mix. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Okay. Well, first of all, Ireland is a very mystical land. And the belief is from all of the ancient wisdom and everything else is that Ireland is the country that the new consciousness of the Aquarian age will flow out of. Ireland was never conquered by the Romans, so it has a very pure and mystical energy. It has a deep, profound um, goddess energy, a mother energy. Ireland is an amazing mystical country. It is the land of the goddess, and it flows out of there with great ease.
Mm.
And we have a place of great balance in Ireland.
Mm. Well, that's what I was really, really witnessing, and I thought, gosh, if I can take that with me into the world, if I can be a person,
Yeah.
and if you guys who are listening can understand that it is possible to really feel our pain, to feel maybe the pain that we feel when we perhaps watch the news or see what's around us, and at the same time feel and hold the love. Is that possible? And I was able to witness that indeed it is possible. So thank you for speaking to that.
Mm. Well, all of the ancient sites in Ireland carry a vibration, and they're vortexes. And a lot of them, Ireland is said because it has a Virgo soul. And the belief is that now all of the etheric libraries are opened over Ireland, and anybody who visits a sacred site in Ireland now will get a download from these ancient etheric libraries.
Yay. That is fantastic. I'm so, so glad about that. So, what I'd also like to ask you about, just sort of regarding that, is we're sort of jumping to the experience of you being incarcerated. And like I said in the introduction, it turned out that there was nothing that you had done wrong, that all charges were dismissed, that you really were used. You were used. And I found it amazing reading your book that you would have the ability to have, um, I mean, I know you went through so much. I don't want to belittle it or sort of be dismissive, but and the fact that you could be such an inspiration to the people around you and to be like a minister actually
Mm.
with showing people how to meditate and how to pray and how to different books to read and just different ways of placing their thoughts in their consciousness, that you were able to do that, and people were allowing it too. The inmates were playing with you. So
Yes.
I just find those kinds of stories, I just don't know what I would be like if that happened to me. So I so respect and honor you, and I was kind of shocked reading your book thinking, Finbarr? How could this happen to Finbarr of all people? So what do you want to say to that?
Well, I had a great foundation when I was arrested by the FBI because at that time, I was living in Sparrowhawk Village, which was an intentional spiritual community where I was the chief executive. And I had just been ordained the previous November. So I had all this spiritual foundation
Mm.
within me. And, I had one thing that kind of stuck in my mind and gave me a whole bunch of faith. And it was the FBI man who arrested me. And he said, "Mr. Ross, who in the name of God have you upset? Because this can only be happening through politics."
Mm. Mm.
And so that took me into deep thought and wondering why this was happening. And then as I went through, every attorney that I dealt with said to me, "This is political." And so, it became the lines became blurred between justice and politics. And then I was told that it was part of the Northern Ireland peace agreement.
Mm.
And so, but, then it was deeply shocking to find that when I was taken to Muskogee, because I thought I would be going home that night, I would just appear in front of a judge and go home. But that didn't happen. And there I spent the next 14 and a half months in a city jail.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and then you were really able to, as we read in the book, that you did have such incredible experiences with the inmates. And again, I think there's something about what we were chatting about earlier regarding the ability to hold at the same time great pain and great love, great compassion, great depth of heart, at the same time. This feeling that I experienced in Ireland, that I witnessed with the people, and indeed you were doing that too. You were embodying that same balance somehow.
Yeah. And don't forget that all of these people who were in there were, and some of them were in a lot worse situations than me. And a lot of them were in there for drugs and for being drug dealers, and they were all, because I was in a federal section of the jail. Everybody was involved in some form of interstate crime, and so it and some of these guys, they had so much pain, and they would talk to me a little bit, and it all started where I was just in there for Easter Sunday. I was just in the week before Easter Sunday. And then there was this Choctaw chief of the Choctaw Nation, and he said to me, "Why don't you do a Sunday, Easter ceremony for us?" So that's how it all started. And
Oh.
from there on, people started asking me questions. I had about 15 people show up. There was 22 people in the unit, and I had about 15 show up. And there, gradually from there on, it started. And then every evening, we would get together at 7 o'clock, and we'd be together for about 4 hours in my cell.
My
And we would
goodness.
have various ceremonies and discussions and everything.
That's so, so beautiful. I mean, talk about taking an opportunity to find the beauty in something where most people would not see it. I
Yeah.
just, as I say, when I read this book, I just felt so inspired by that. There are other stories, of course, the Nelson Mandela stories and many different stories where people have been incarcerated and become great friends with their jailers. And these stories are, abound, and yet they're for every story like that, there are many, many where people are. It's just not possible. And I think in many places where people might be free and yet they feel imprisoned somehow in their heart about their what they've sort of created for themselves and how they're not able to kind of free themselves. And so I read a story like you have and I think, oh my goodness, people, let's be inspired by this kind of situation because we don't have to jail ourselves, especially when we can get in our car and drive wherever or whatever, right, Finbar?
That's yeah, yeah. Well, I was very lucky in that we had a very good jail administrator who I was able to talk to, and who allowed, and I had a great support team on the outside.
Mm.
Without them, like my support team on the outside was like par excellence. They
Oh,
were absolutely superb. And they supplied me with all sorts of books and everything. And we had study groups and we had all sorts of things. We did things like, uh, uh, we read a book called Codependency No More. And so I had 20 books sent in by people who would donate books into us. And we
oh.
would sit and we would have this. And so people learned a lot. I learned a lot because I learned a lot from all of the people that I was dealing with. I learned a lot about abuse
Whew.
and about all sorts of different things. I thought I knew a lot about abuse, but I knew nothing. I hadn't even touched the the, the lifted the lid off it from some of the stories that I heard.
Some of the human condition that
Yeah,
we humans have found ourselves in is, I mean, on this show, I've had formerly incarcerated people and some who did the crime and did the time, and some who did not. Again,
yeah.
you're one of those who did not do the crime. But the whole, all of the story of that experience of being in a situation like that and then how did you and then being freed, how did you feel when you were freed, when you were actually released? How was that for you?
It was absolutely amazing. But I have to tell you a story about before I got released. On the final day of the court hearing, I had three judges sitting. There was the Lord Chief Justice of Northern Ireland, the Deputy Lord Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice. They were the three people sitting on my case. And the Lord Chief Justice said to me, Mr. Ross, do you realize you have stretched this court? And I said, yes, Your Honor. And for a moment in time, it was like there was nobody else present but the Lord Chief Justice and me. It was like an amazing mystical moment.
Mm.
And then he said to me, normally we ask people to go back to jail. Well, we make up our decision for the next 6 weeks. But he said, I don't see any useful purpose in sending you back for the next 6 weeks. So we will just let you know when we are ready to render our decision. And he told me, off I go.
Oh.
And so that was a profound moment. That was actually a much deeper mystical moment than the time when he came out 6 weeks later and said to me, you know, you are free to go and everything, all charges, everything are dismissed. There is nothing that to be wiped off the slate, and you are free to go. And that the case was based on innuendo.
Yay. I
Yeah,
love that. I love
yeah.
that. Well, I also want to talk about this book a little bit more, and then I also want to talk about so many things. And so, jump in with whatever you want, but I want to also just sort of let people know that I like the different categories that you have, which I think is so important. Part one, you have cracking open the ego, and that's sort of the whole story of your background, your mom, your dad, school, all those kinds of things, all of that. And then part two is living the inner divine wisdom. And you have many, many elements here that are so fascinating. The nature doctor, matrix nutrients, my personal journey in the Essene and Cathar initiation caves. I mean, wow, 5 years of transparency and the gateways. And then you also talk about the seven rays, the golden flame, the 13 gateways, and like that. So there's a lot to chat about with this book, actually, and we just have a little bit of time, but I want people to read it. So I want to have you just chat a little bit about what comes to your heart right now that you'd like to chat about regarding the next sort of where we are right now in this conversation. What comes to you to chat about?
Okay, well, in 1990, I was living in Dallas, and this is my first conscious. It was on the 15th of May, 1990. I had a mystical experience with Mother Mary. It was my first conscious memory of a mystical experience with Mother Mary. And she came into my life, and my life changed in all sorts of different ways from there on, because suddenly I'm involved with a spiritual group in Dallas, which it's like everything I'd been searching for years suddenly opened up,
Mm.
and the doorway was there to take me into a whole new world of what I had been searching for and feeling. And then Mother Mary taught me how to do divine feminine emotional healing, which we called Mary Network Healing, where we network the body and the memory cells of the body to release pools of trapped emotions.
Mm. That's amazing. So at that point, then you started really getting Mother Mary messages that came through to
That
you and
that's
guided you.
correct, yeah.
That's so incredible. And then you actually had I'm sort of jumping forward a little bit, but I know that you had some experiences in 2012, and then I think it's kind of cool for you to just briefly talk about your experience that you had just at the beginning of COVID when you were in India.
Oh, in India, we were in India in March of 2020. And on the 17th of March, everybody had gone. All of the tours had gone, and we were still there. And I talked to Mother Mary, and we had at that time set up, it was the ninth interdimensional opening gateway of the 13 gateways that humanity and the planet is going through right now. So we were there to do this major ceremony at sunrise on spring equinox. And so I said to Mother Mary, "What am I going to do?" And she said, "You are on a divine mission. You are fully protected. Go to Varanasi and do your ceremony." So I told the group this, and so 2 days later, we're heading off to Varanasi. And we go there, and we're the only group in the hotel. The hotel we left in Delhi, we were the only people in it, the only group left there as well. And so we were the only group in the hotel in Varanasi. And we got up, we were there for 2 nights, and we got up early on the morning of spring equinox, and we saw the sunrise come up and did our ceremony and everything else. And then the following day, we flew back to, which was the 22nd of March, we flew back to New Delhi, and we all had dinner and then left for the airport because we had to rebook our flights. And I had this wonderful travel guy out of Canada called Greg, and Greg made all the arrangements for all of us to get back out.
Whew.
And so some people went through Newark, some people went through San Francisco, and we had one person go through Tokyo onto Mexico City. but we all got home. We all came out on the last flights out of India. And of course,
Wow.
I arrived into San Francisco to a whole new world.
Yes.
Nothing that, and people had told me you won't recognize it when you get here, which was beyond my imagination that I was going to be coming into what I thought was like an empty airport.
I'm telling you, what we have gone through this last while, it's something that we'll tell our kids and grandkids. It'll be one of those things where, like our grandparents who talk about the depression, it's like, well, what was life like for you, Grandma? I know it's going to be like that. And many people, I'm actually working with a beautiful, speaking of India, I'm working with a beautiful Indian woman who has a great following in India. And she's asking for me to write a chapter in a book that she's writing called The Miracle of 2020. And it's all really about seeing this whole time that we've gone through the eyes of a miracle. And of course, there are many people who have suffered and that sort of thing. I don't mean to belittle anything, but there were many, many opportunities for people to take the quiet that we ended up being served on some sort of platter, not necessarily silver. And what did we all do with it? So again, it will all have our individual stories. Some people read so much more. Some people took up an instrument. Some people got so much closer to their kids. Some people moved homes. So many changes happened. And again, when we look at it, I'm really, really hoping that people will see all the benefit that happened from it and what we can learn from it going forward in our own lives personally and in our small community, family, and in the greater, because we really are in a place where reimagining life with each other, I think, is so important. And I think that for me, that was one of my takeaways about this time is the ability to reimagine. A lot taken away, a lot just
Yeah,
cleaned off the table, as it were. And what do we want on the table? What do we want in our life, and who do we
yeah.
want in our life, and how do we want to play for the next chapter of our lives? So, what do you think of that, Finbar?
Well, it's a time of transformation. It's a time of where we are moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, and we have all this. We have people are having a deep dive within themselves
Hmm.
and looking at who they are. It gave the people time to look and see. And I know for myself, I am a totally different person to what I was when I arrived home on the 22nd of March, 2020,
Hmm.
today, because I have been at home now for almost 14 months. I haven't the last 20 years. I have not been home for 14 months. If I'm home for 4 months at a time, it would have been as much because the rest of the time I was traveling, doing tours and everything else. So this is a whole new thing for me. And now every Wednesday I have a meditation group. I do a talk about something, and I pick a subject and we do a talk about it, and then I have a meditation. It takes an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, and we call it the community meeting of the village at Montrose. And so
Nice.
we send out this energy, this vortex, every week. And so we have a lot of people show up every Wednesday, depending on the subject.
That's
If I do something on Mary Magdalene, I will have 3 times more than I will have on, say, if I was doing something on the power is within you. And
oh.
believe it or not, everything, the power, Mary Magdalene is part of the power that is within you.
Oh my goodness, how fabulous is that? By the
Yeah.
way, speaking of these things, I would love for you to chat about the castle's monastery that is behind me. And I'm going to move, I think, a little bit. Let's see, this
Oh,
way.
that is the Rock of Cashel in Ireland, and it was the seat of the King of Munster. And then you had it eventually became a monastery as well as a castle. and you have a round tower in it. You have some frescoes they have discovered there. It's a very, very special place.
Oh, well, I just intuited having it there, and the owner of our studio here also did, and he's Irish too, and so he was chatting about he just had an intuition to grab this, and he said, "Oh, it's maybe a little gray, the background on the top," and I thought, "No, it absolutely embodies what we're
Yeah,
talking about with the gray and also the light and the green and everything." So I think it's sort of the perfect background for actually what we're chatting about today, don't
yeah.
you think?
If you like blue cheese, there is an amazing blue cheese that comes from Cashel, and it's called Cashel blue cheese.
I think I've seen it in Whole Foods
Yeah,
or
it
fancy
it's
stores.
yeah, it's here you can get it in City Market, and City Market I think is part of Kroger, but it's a blue cheese like nothing else I have tasted.
Oh my goodness, it's about that time. I'm starting to get hungry. Well, I love the again the idea of being able to hold I mean again, I think that's what we've sort of gone through these last 14 months is being able to hold a lot of different physiological and emotional elements together. Many people not being able to be with loved ones, perhaps people not being able to see their grandkids, different things like that. And yet, the preciousness of life, I think, is one thing that we've really, if we would allow ourselves, that is what, sort of the tenderness and the preciousness and um, the importance of really who we are in this world and what we mean to other people and what do other
Yeah,
people mean to us and how do we express that and how do we communicate that and in new ways because we kind of were forced to. So if it was on Zoom or writing letters or dropping flowers at someone's doorstep and not being able to see them or whatever it was, we really used our communication and our creativity in communication much more deeply because we were sort of asked to, we're sort of forced to.
but
Did
it
you find
allowed
that in
us
your
to look at
life?
who we are.
Pardon me?
It allowed us to look at who we are
Yeah, yeah.
and to see the beauty of who we are, because until we see the beauty and the gift of who we are, it's like love.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love yourself, how can you love anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the energy, the frequency, and vibration that each of us were putting out. And it is about people making choices and taking responsibility for themselves. A lot of people have made beautiful choices during this time of, shall we say, restriction, and opened up a whole new world for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I have been very lucky in that here where I live, we have had no problems. And the only difference for me was no travel. And but we this is a beautiful place to live, and we only had the 6 weeks of lockdown, and after that everything was open, and
Yeah,
it
so you did
I was
have a
extremely lucky.
yeah, you did have a different situation, and most people did not have that experience. And I know
Yeah,
people who, of course, moms who were home with their kids for many, many, many months. And I think though, when they look back on this time in years to come, there will be experiences that they had that they otherwise never would have had. So again, I'm hoping that if we aren't feeling them and seeing them and experiencing them and appreciating them now, the gifts that we were given, even though they may have felt very painful and may continue to feel painful, that sort of what you were saying that no matter where you are in life, you can triumph, and I think that's something that perhaps as hard as it may feel, what we've been through in this last while, that we can really find a
that's
way to that place no matter where we found
that's
ourselves.
correct, because as we look within ourselves and as we feel the beauty of who we are, and as we look at all of the different situations that come up and how we responded to them, we see life transforming us, and by just being. and a lot of people learned how to meditate, and a lot of people learned how to do breath work and how to do various things. More people then realized that there was all sorts of natural products that you could take to enhance your immune system and everything. So people did it like a deep dive into how do I protect myself, what is right for me, and spiritually, where is this journey taking me? Because the old way is crumbling.
Yeah.
And we are moving into a whole new way of doing things in the Aquarian age.
Absolutely. And of course, a lot of people learned how to make sourdough bread. It was so
I've done a
wild.
lot of baking. I've done a
Oh my
tremendous
God.
amount of
That is one
baking.
of the things I found so interesting was when I did go to the store, the baking aisle was practically empty. Chocolate chips, flour. I thought a lot of comfort foods going on here, a lot of comfort
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
And then, you know, then it went deeper. And then it went deeper because most all of us, including I think politicians and teachers and any just all of us thought this is going to be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I remember when people were saying things like, oh gosh, it could go until June. And I thought, June? What in the world? June of last year. And I thought,
yeah,
okay, what in the bleep? How is that
yeah,
possible? And
yeah.
then it just kept going and going. And so as a species, we ended up, if we allowed ourselves to, took it a little deeper, took it a little
Yeah.
deeper. It was like like the first
Yeah, it
brush
kept going
was
deeper
like
and deeper.
watching
And
a bunch of
this,
Netflix, and
yeah,
then, yeah, doing baking. And then, okay, so now what's the next level of either self-care
yeah,
or communication with our kids or
yeah,
online school? How are we going to really, okay, so this is going to
yeah,
go on for a while, so how are we going to go to the deeper level to make this actually make sense, and then yet a deeper level and a deeper level? So I think that is what is a really phenomenal thing that we as humans can do, because we're usually bombarded by a lot from the outside world. We're running and zipping and doing a lot, and so we don't really have that opportunity to be like in a sacred, silent
mhm,
ashram
yeah.
for
And
months at a time.
yeah, at winter solstice 2012, Mother Mary told me that we were going through 13 gateways, that humanity and the planet would go through 13 gateways, and the final gateway would be at winter solstice 2023, taking us into 2024.
Ooh.
Last year, when we were in India, we were in the year, and it's 13 gateways of awakened consciousness. And last year, when we were in India, it was awakening to group consciousness.
Mm.
And so, if you look at last year, everything was about understanding group consciousness and everything else. This year is about awakening to empowerment. So, we're on a whole new journey of claiming back, claiming ourselves, seeing the beauty of who we are, seeing how we're balanced, because we're different people than we were last year.
Yes.
And so, every year at winter solstice, we have a change in the
Beautiful.
energies that are flowing in. And of course, then every 45 days, we have an energy shift as well, because the year is divided into 8 cycles.
Oh,
And
okay.
all of these cycles bring forth approximately every 45 days, depending on the zodiac and the calendar, we have a shift in consciousness. We have four major shifts in consciousness at the solstices and the equinoxes. But in between, on the 1st of February, the 1st of May, the 1st of August, and the 1st of November, we also have shifts in consciousness. And then we
Interesting.
come to the end of the year, and winter solstice starts off again with another cycle for us. Like next year is going to be awakening to balance. I haven't been told what 2023 is about yet.
And the year 2021, I understand, is really about change. It's the
It's about change, it's about
numerological number of
empowerment,
change.
it's
Yeah.
about people taking back their power, which they had given away. It's about the choice. It's very much about choice. It's very much about truth and
Yay.
all of that. And it's about faith,
Yeah, and
faith in
change.
yourself and your own ability.
Yes, and change, I love the idea of that because, I mean, of course, we've had this time of like incubation for a year
Yeah,
almost, and then now we can come at change or move into change, probably a better way of
yeah,
putting it, from a much more sort of clear, clean, simple choice, desire place
yeah,
in our hearts and our minds, and kind of logistically. I
yeah.
feel like being home all the time, oh my God, I mean, how many people have painted a wall in their house or changed their couch
Mm,
or, sort of changed the basic
mm,
place where we live, literally. And
yeah,
then from there, our nest, our nest. And then from there, if we want to make a change in our life, we do it from such a strong foundation. So I feel like that's such a great benefit that we can use this full year to change from a place of real strength and stability. Yeah?
yes, yep. And as well, we have, as we change, we see a whole new vision appearing in front of us. And as we change and as we embrace ourselves in all aspects of ourselves, because the whole thing about now is that as we empower ourselves, we are embracing every aspect of ourselves, even all what we look on as the negative parts of ourselves. And as we embrace every aspect of ourselves, we empower ourselves because we have more love, because it flows into love. And after all, the 13 gateways are about uh, transformation and about everything that no longer serves humanity is going to fade away, because this is all part of the new paradigm.
Fantastic. By the way, I was wondering if you have any wisdom or knowledge about our birthdays. When we have a birthday coming, I've heard that the perhaps the month before our actual birthday, we go through a lot of something, and I know that you know about that, and so I just thought it would be kind of fun for you to talk about. Speaking of change, and for our birthday is really our New Year, our personal New Year's Day. So with New Year's Eve and everything leading up to our birthday, I understand that sort of like a 4 weeks or a period of time like that, there's something that kind of changes with us, within us.
Well, it's changing because it's like the seasons. You are coming to an end of a certain part. And say, for example, like if you have, depending on the year that you were born, you have a personal year. Like my personal year is 5. And so that's all about freedom and about expansion and everything like that. And so it's like this year is for me an 8 year. And this is the year of manifestation of all sorts of wonderful things flowing into my life. Last year would have been a 7 year, and because it was about spirituality. And so as I came just before my birthday, I would have everything flowing in that I needed to embrace, or things that I needed to let go of.
Oh.
Everything that all happens about the month before your birthday, because you're like doing a cleansing. It's like you're going to do a detox of everything that no longer you need to hold on to.
I think that's so beautiful that you're telling us that. And I think that what happens sometimes is people have their birthdays coming and there's sort of a strange weirdness before. And I think that
Yeah,
sometimes if we're over a certain age, we might feel like when we're little kids, it's the excitement because of presents and a party and all that. And then when we get to a certain age, it might be, oh yikes, another year. I don't want to celebrate
yeah,
any more birthdays, or I'm getting older, or whatever. But there is this energy of something that might feel uncomfortable before a
there,
birthday. So I
yeah.
think you've really described kind of why we might feel like that, because we are clearing the decks a bit. We're going through a detox, we're letting go, and we're preparing the chrysalis in a way to receive yet a new year. Yeah?
That's right. Yeah, it's like at winter solstice, the new year is birthed. The new energy for the coming year is birthed.
Yeah.
And so, say for example, the winter solstice is on the 21st. The sun stands still for 3 days. And then on the 24th, the sun starts to move again, and the days start to get longer by about a minute. And that is the birthing of the new energy
Nice.
that is
Nice.
flowing out from the mother being deepest in the womb for 3 days. And so this is the new energy that has been birthed. And so it flows out, and its first cycle starts on the 1st of February.
Mm.
And then it goes on to spring equinox, where you have equal day and equal night. It's balance. And so then it goes on to the 1st of May, and so on and so on.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, Finbarr, this has been so incredible to chat with you today, and I just have enjoyed this time together with you so, so much. And we're coming to the end of our time. Kurt, our engineer, is giving me a little bit of a signal for us to wrap things up. So I want to make sure if there isn't anything else we have to say about your beautiful book, which, by the way, is quite a page turner, guys. It's really just it's sort of fascinating because there's so much that's mixed in with sort of history that a lot of us may know a little bit about, but not as, we learn more. We definitely learn more about how countries with Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, I mean, being an island and all should be well together. I mean, it's an island and yet it's not, and sort of how that plays out, and also so many things that Finbarr you've put in here, as I say, when you get into the living the inner divine wisdom, where you speak at first about all of your personal, sort of life and the story of the
Yeah.
incarceration, and then into the living inner wisdom. And so we have like 1 minute to say goodbye, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of say whatever you'd like to say at this point. And again, congratulations, I will say, for this book. I know it was a heart project, a blood, sweat, and tears, as projects like this are. And I have a great, great respect and honor for you for bringing it forward. And I'm hoping all of us read it. So I will let you sort of have the last word.
Okay. Well, since 2002, when I started Sacred Mystical Journeys and started doing all these journeys around the world, they opened me up to all of the magnificence and all of the beauty that is within each of us, and also within each of the sites that we visit. And especially like France is one of my favorite countries to visit, because you have such a rich heritage of Mary Magdalene, the Grail family. You have the Cathars. You have the Knights Templars. You have Mother Mary in Lourdes. You have so many beautiful things to open up, and then you have Ireland and the stone circles and Tara and all sorts of different places that serve to open you up and bring forth all this amazing beauty. And then you have places like Assisi, where I've had amazing mystical experiences. You can have a mystical experience in any country, but Italy seems to be a place where I have a profound amount of mystical experiences. Same in Ireland. Scotland is also an amazing place. I've had some profound experiences on the Isle of Iona, and that is where Mother Mary gives me a lot of information every time I go to Iona.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for all of that. And again, I drink to you. I salute you for accomplishing this great feat of this book. And Kurt's going to give us some walking out music. And I just want to say to all of you guys, again, I'm going to use the quote that Finbarr has for me: no matter where you are in life, you can triumph. And I always like to say that let's do something for ourselves today that our future self will thank us for. And I'm so, so grateful that you were with us today. And again, thank you, Finbarr Ross, for being with us. And until next time, just enjoy, 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 change, let go, receive, and love. Until next time. Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
Charlene. Bye.
Thank you for joining me on Solutionary Sundays. My wish is always that you found some sacred nugget from this show that will shift you for the better. Let's do something for ourselves today that our future selves will thank us for. Again, thanks so much for being with us. And until next time, this is Sunny Chayes, always wishing you joy.
The proceeding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state? Did you miss sending out a prior year tax return? The IRS is out to collect now more than ever, and they'll use any means necessary. They legally can and will garnish your wages, take your money, and even seize your property. If you're behind on your taxes, call the Tax Relief Hotline right now at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000. You can legally get your tax debt under control, and in many cases, get the breathing room you need. Garnished wages, property seizures, bank levies can stop immediately. But you have to call. Many of our specialists are IRS enrolled agents. They know the system and how to make it work for you. Don't wait for the IRS to come down on you. Act now so you can get your tax debt under control. Call their Riverside office today for free info at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000.
We're in the studio with Fred Penny, managing attorney with Penny and Associates Injury Lawyers. Fred,